There we go. Hi, I'm April, Staff Engineering Manager here at GitHub. I use Sentry every day to make sure that, at GitHub, we can deploy with confidence. And even sometimes when we deploy, there's broken windows that we're like, okay, we're just gonna not do that. But we have to come back to them because Sentry keeps telling us about them. So anyways, I'm just really grateful to Sentry, and thanks for having me here today to chat. I'm so excited to talk about strategies and tools for unleashing great ideas. So let's start off with what's a great idea? We're gonna get our creative juices flowing, and we're gonna take a look at some examples. So first, this is Runway ML. It's a set of artificial intelligence or AI tools that make video editing magical. So with the ability to create videos and text-to-pattern recognition and prediction, the founder of Runway ML took a common set of data science and engineering technologies and made them available to creatives. Next, AlphaFold is an AI program that can predict the shape of proteins to the nearest atom. So it's reducing a process that used to take months into minutes and opening new paths for drug discovery and design. And finally, Stable Diffusion, if you haven't seen it, it's an image generator based on any text that you supply to the model. And it really is blurring the lines around the creation of art and even reality. All right, so where did all these great ideas come from? More than ever, I think that the ability to discover and create is available to everyone. And really working at GitHub, the home of open source software development, I have a front row seat to some amazing creativity. Well, great ideas usually start with a problem. So we're gonna assume today that you've already got a problem as a starting point, but what's next? As an engineering manager, I want my team to get to that Eureka moment faster, whether that problem is simple or complex. And I'm gonna share a really simple framework with you to help you form the habits that are gonna help you get to that moment of discovery more quickly. You're gonna know some of these, but I hope something in here is new for you. The first is practice. My ballet instructor used to tell me that practice does not make perfect, practice makes permanent. So practice is hard at first, but it gets easier over time. And so really practice the things that you want to make permanent. Develop the habit of carving out learning time. I asked my team to dedicate about 8 hours every 2-week sprint towards whatever professional development or development is going to make sense for them. So it might be an hour listening to their favorite tech podcast every day, or maybe attending a how to build a compiler session over the course of the quarter. And in his book, Staff Engineer, Will Larson describes snacking as easy, low-impact work. Avoid it. And I think you all know what I'm talking about, right? It's like bumping that library version because it's just a quick, easy win, but don't repeat. Automate those routine tasks. Consider how to reclaim your time and never do that extraneous keystroke ever again. And in our productivity-based world, we sometimes just forget to turn off that crank of execution and just play. But remember the first time that you first painted a pixel on the screen and it felt like it was magic? So try to find those same magical moments, but with new technologies. Second, be curious. Don't be satisfied with just getting something to work, but try to understand why it works. Don't stop at the surface. Dig deeply into your problems, and until you get to the 0 and 1s, you're not at the bottom of your abstractions. So test yourself and your knowledge by explaining how things work, to yourself or to others. And with any problem, really think about the constraints that you're given. And then ask yourself, what if, or how might we? Using the double diamond design process, we can break our problem solving down into 2 separate stages. First, you're gonna diverge on the problem space, and then you're going to, with trying to come up with as many ideas as possible, and then you're going to converge on one of those ideas. Then repeat the same with the solutions. The key here is to make some space for that what if, that how might we. And you can even practice divergent thinking. So my family plays a game where you start with a prompt name something green. But you try to be as creative as possible. So instead of saying frog or alien, you might say student, someone who's inexperienced or new to something. And then from improv, we learn to avoid saying no, especially when we're in that divergent thinking phase. Say yes and instead. I don't know if you all practice this, but sometimes I have to catch myself and say oh, well, no, that can't work because of X, Y, Z. But really see how far you can just stretch the possibilities and leave the trade-offs until all your ideas are exhausted. I promise you, this is incredibly energizing. And then experiment and iterate. So Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. And sometimes that means sticking with the experiment even when you're at step 999. And finally, together is better than alone. Great ideas are like Legos, so often constructed with existing building blocks, but put together in new and novel ways, or applying a pattern in an existing context. So don't get stuck in a technology or even a field. Like, explore outside your comfort zone and try to draw inspiration from those around you. And then find others to help collaborate with you, to generate ideas faster and expand your thinking. Whenever we do hackathons, we always try to at least pair up. And we already talked a little bit about iterating and experimenting, but if you fail fast, you close that duration of the feedback loop. So getting fast feedback against your measurements or measurements from external sources will help you know whether that future investment is worthwhile. All right, that's it for our really simple framework. So we're gonna get to the tools section. So I've been working on Codespaces for about 2 years now. It's like an absolutely game-changing tool. And it really automates away the pain of the development environment setup so that I can get coding fast. So we're going to apply our simple framework to how Codespaces can help us unleash some great ideas. The hardware gods were not with me today in this demo, so you're going to pretend right now that I'm actually doing a live demo, but I had to pre-record it. So, but my team works on the Ruby monolith that serves github.com or GitHub. It looks like this. It's kind of meta, like you're literally looking at it. And so for every task, we start a new Codespace. So Codespaces are instant-on, customizable, container-based web development environments in the cloud. They let any team from any computer have full, fast access to everything that they need to work on their projects on GitHub. So with config as code, you can package up your project's development environment and in a single click, launch into your favorite editor, backed with compute and terminal access, and customized with your themes, preferences, and dot files. So with our custom welcome message here, you can see that our environment is set up and ready to go. So onboarding new hubbers used to take days and a whole Slack channel that was devoted to like all the slight variation from like the 600 developer environments that existed. And now they can start working on their project in seconds because all that setup is pre-built and it helps our hubbers have, get coding faster in these like really nice isolated and secure environments. And companies like Google and Facebook and Slack have made huge investments into these internal-only tooling to make their engineers productive. But now GitHub has created a platform that makes that power available to you and your team. Codespaces also fundamentally changed my personal workflow. So I just have a Codespace for each task, and these are like truly ephemeral environments. Sometimes I have way too many of them. This is like very reasonable right now. But I was troubleshooting an issue that came in from a customer around permissions. I'm reviewing a PR in GitHub, and I'm working on some internal documentation for the team. So when I'm done, I just delete my Codespace and I check it off the list. It's actually faster to create a new Codespace than to like manage state, dependencies, frameworks, fetching, branches, and it really frees up my brain space and time to just focus on more important work. So when my calendar reminds me about that learning time that I carved out, instead of snacking, Codespaces makes it really easy to like context switch and get coding faster and to play and get inspired. So you remember Stable Diffusion we talked about earlier. I've really been wanting to play around with it and just generally understand the machine learning space better. So I forked this repo that my coworker JP has been kind of working on, and it's a little bit pre-configured for Codespaces. So with one click, I create a Codespace that's tailored to this repository. And behind the scenes, a GPU is spinning up in the cloud that's pre-installed with an image that we call the kitchen sink. It has a common set of tools and runtimes to get you productive quickly, but it's slim enough to keep startup fast. And here it is. We're running VS Code in the browser, and in seconds we can start just kind of exploring this new technology. So the README tells us here that this is a Jupyter notebook where you can run live code, equations, visualizations, and add narrative text to make this really easily shareable. So the first thing, I think we're going to just stick here with the stable version of VS Code. But the first thing I notice here is that we've got a Jupyter server we need to just make sure that we're connected to. We'll just use the default here. And I also see that there's this run all button, so let's just experiment and give that a try. All right, and we'll kick that off and get it running. That's right, we're gonna get curious. We're gonna dig in, we're gonna ask ourselves some questions, and we're gonna experiment. We're first gonna start digging in by looking at this file. This is a devcontainer.json, which does what it says. It defines a development container. It's a pre-configured tool set and runtime stack that's specifically targeted for development. So from top to bottom, we have an explicit call out to the kitchen sink. We have Codespaces as our root user. After startup, we're gonna run some commands, and we have a minimum machine type to just make sure that we get that default experience is really great. And then if you're using VS Code as your client, we're going to go ahead and pre-install a set of extensions. So development containers are an open standard that Codespaces supports. There's a growing ecosystem of dev container features that makes it really easy to add languages and tooling support without needing to be a Docker expert. So, hopefully that kind of in making, like David was saying, that making that welcoming environment is just a little bit easier. Additionally, there are powerful capabilities that any project maintainer can configure to enable that one-click magical experience. So READMEs really used to be this list of everything required to get started on the project, and sometimes that just stopped you. You might get to step 3, and then you're like, it just isn't working on my machine, and so you just stop, right? And Codespaces is amazing because it just takes that all away. You just launch in, and everybody gets the exact same experience. And so now you can focus your README on why you should play, why you should remix, why you should contribute. So our notebook ran, and look at that. I have a pretty strange looking picture of an astronaut riding a horse. So we're gonna kind of take our last step together. We've done a little bit of exploration, and now we're going to collaborate and get some feedback. So every time we run this notebook, we're gonna get a different image. And this one is, frankly, a little creepy. So I think we can avoid that bad first impression by adding a seed value to make the output deterministic. So let's go ahead and get that started here. And I think outside of, well, we'll go ahead and add our seed here. We'll use 42 because that's a magic number, and we'll get that set up. So I think I'm also going to suggest a different prompt. As much as I really enjoy astronauts riding horses, I think we can do better. And I don't know if you can tell, but I actually have Copilot installed here as well, which is GitHub's AI pair programmer. I think it was saying maybe sunglasses, but I really think the corgis and rainbow space are better, so human win. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and run this. We have our beautiful corgi in space, and we're gonna go ahead and run it again just to double check and make sure that we get actually a deterministic output here. And there it goes. So I think, just to kind of wrap it up here, I think we're going to go ahead and check this in, and I think we'll just create a PR so that JP can consider using this in his project. And since we have that kitchen sink that I was talking about, we already have the GitHub CLI pre-installed, which is just really nice because I just think it's a really easy and quick way to get a draft PR up and running. So we'll just get that going and see what JP thinks. So hopefully you saw here that taking some time to learn, explore, and experiment just got a lot more fun. Codespaces can help you kind of get that jump start on experimentation, allow you to context switch painlessly, and get coding fast. And then really I just want to leave you with good habits can help us discover ideas more quickly. So I want you to take advantage, have fun, practice, some curiosity together. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And so with that, I hope you have fun out there. Thanks.